Hello, everyone. Bob Thibodeau here. Congratulations. You have made it to the last video, the last training session. Oh, isn't this awesome? You made it. You have done it. You've began your podcast. You planned it all out from concept to launch. Now, today, we're going to talk about the last training step, which is monetization. Amen. Monetization, not every podcaster is able to do it. Okay, but the ones who are will utilize the steps that I'm going to share with you today. Now, let me go ahead and share this screen with you, and we'll jump right into today's training. Okay, there you go. We are over here into monetization. Isn't that awesome? So we're going to talk about some different ways for you to monetize your podcast. Now, I have to tell you right up front, monetization is more than just making money. All right, you need to have a raving fan base, not just people following your podcast, not just someone who listens from time to time, not just your grandma and your mother. You need to build a raving fan base. That's the only way you're going to be able to generate money with your podcast. Now, to do that, there are several things that you're going to need. Social media platforms is today, in this day and time, the primary way that you're going to be able to build a raving fan base. You have to use social media. If you're not comfortable with it yet, you need to become comfortable with it. And I have training that goes into all that, so I'm not going to take the time to talk about it today. But you know what you got to do. You got to do Facebook posts, you got to do Twitter and Instagram and all that other stuff. Email. You definitely have to connect with people who are following you via email. You have to have some type of offer where they get on your list so you can stay in touch with them. They need to be notified every time you have a special guest come on or a special podcast. And email is a great way to communicate with them. And of course, word of mouth. Word of mouth means, you talk about your podcast everywhere you go. You tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your family, and let them tell people as well. And then there are conventions all over the area. There's regional conventions, state level conventions, national conventions, podcaster conventions. You need to be going to these things. That doesn't mean you need to do one every single week. I usually do maybe 2 a year, okay, the podcasting conventions. Because one, you learn things at every convention. Two, you're networking at every convention, and you end up with some friends at every convention. But more than that, there's local meetup groups that cover podcasting and whatever your niche may be. It may be knitting socks. I can almost guarantee there's a knitting sock meetup group somewhere in your area. All right. So what you're doing is building relationship currency. That's what I like to call it, relationship currency. Just like you use money, which is currency, you need to establish relationships with your raving fan base. That's the type of currency that will help you to grow your podcast, which ultimately will also result in monetizing your podcast. So go to your social media platforms, use word of mouth. Those are the two primary ways you're going to build this relationship currency. Again, the conventions and meetup groups is good for networking. When you start networking, you will be able to grow your network, grow your listener base, grow those who will subscribe to your podcast. And it is a long-term approach. This is, when you start networking and growing things like that and going to these conventions and meetup groups, you're not talking about overnight success. You are not talking about, I'm going to attend this convention and next month I'll have $1,000 a month coming in. It's not going to be like that. This is the long-term approach. That's why social media marketing and email marketing will give you the fastest results. Convention and meetup groups is the long-term plan, but you need to implement it if you're going to continue to grow. All right. There are different ways to monetize your podcast. I like to use interviews. Why interviews? Interviews will allow you to leverage the person you're interviewing, leverage their social media networks, leverage their followers to become your followers. If you interview someone famous and people are, they got 10,000 followers on Twitter and 5,000 followers on Facebook, and they promote your podcast interview with them, all of these people are going to listen to it. And not every one of them is going to come become a subscriber of yours. But let's say they had 10,000 followers and 5,000 of them listened to your podcast. That's 5,000 downloads you immediately got from one interview. And let's say 5% of them, or 250 of them, will become subscribers to your podcast. 250 subscribers from one interview, that's awesome. Okay, so that's why you want to use interviews. That's why I use interviews. That's helped me grow the podcast. Then there are banner ads. You've seen them on Google, advertisements for dog walking or whatever, buying books or whatever the case may be on the side where you're doing your searches. Those are banner ads. These are ads people have paid Google to place for them. Now, usually you don't get to pick your banner ads. You just put a blank, not a blank one. You'll set up the area and tie it into Google, and based upon the theme of your podcast and the different things that you've been talking about, because Google follows all that stuff. It's big brother in the internet cloud, right? They will post banner ads on the side of your website that talk about those sorts of things. And every time someone clicks on one of those banner ads, you get points added to your system. And maybe for every 100 clicks, you get 5 cents, something like that. It's not a huge amount of money, but if someone buys something from that banner ad, usually you earn some type of affiliate commission with it. So it is a way to begin generating some income through your podcast because of your podcast hosting site if you put those banner ads on the side. Then there are sponsorships. It could be called advertising. The technical term is sponsorships. Sponsorships will be something along the lines of someone pays you to talk about their product. Okay, it could be a local tire shop putting new tires on automobiles, and they're going to give you X amount of dollars per episode, per week, per month, and you will talk about their tire shop. Now, this works really great. Let's say you have a podcast talking about how auto repair. That's what your podcast is about. That's what your hobby is. Remember, we talked about what do most people ask for your help with? You could be a lawyer, but on the weekends, you just enjoy tinkering with old cars. So that's what your podcast is about. Well, you can approach a local car mechanic, car shop, and auto repair shop and say, hey, I got this great podcast. It talks about fixing cars for $100 a month, $50 a month, whatever the case may be. I'll give you a 30-second plug on each and every podcast. If you got a bunch of followers, okay, I'll do that. And that's how you start generating income that way, through sponsorships. And with sponsorships, there are different ways of doing it. You have a pre-roll ad. Pre-roll ad is the beginning. They just played your intro. You're talking about the guest you have today. And so before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about Joe's Auto Shop. Joe's Auto Shop fixes every type of car, for 30 seconds. You just talk about Joe's Auto Shop. So go down to such and such place. If you're all on the internet, then you want to talk about something else that deals with it. It could be, whatever the case may be. Okay, I'm not going to get into the details on it, but you get the idea. It's right at the very beginning of your podcast. Then you have the mid-roll ads. Let's say you have a 25-minute podcast. At about the 10-minute point, you're asking your guests questions. They're talking. They say, well, before we get to the next question, I want to take a moment to talk about Joe's Auto Shop. Joe's Auto Shop is a sponsor of this program. And, you talk about that for 30 seconds or so, maybe even a minute in the middle of the podcast. So go down to Joe's Auto Shop. Now let's get back into our interview with John Smith talking about how to install an alternator or something like that, whatever the case may be. That's the mid-roll ad. And then you got the end-of-roll ads. The end-of-roll ads, you've completed the interview. You say, before I let you go today, I want to tell you one more time about Joe's Auto Shop down on Main Street. And there you go again. So they got the pre-roll, the mid-roll, the end-of-roll. Now, starting off, you may have a sponsor, one sponsor, and you're going to talk about them 3 times in the middle of the podcast. You can sell each episode with its own sponsor. Especially, like I said in the beginning, if you only had one sponsor, that's all you're going to do. But you can have multiple sponsors for each episode. Let's say you have 3 sponsors, and Joe's Auto Shop, maybe Frank's Bakery, and Kelly's Sock Store. Right? Those are the 3 sponsors you're going to have. So one would be pre-roll, one mid-roll, one end-of-roll. And that's how you can do that. So you have the banner ads, you have the sponsorships, and now we talk about donations. Donations are great, especially if a nonprofit, where it's kind of going along the same lines where someone will give you money to promote their business. The difference is, instead of telling you all about, Joe's Auto Shop has this sale going on right now, you're just going to say, today's episode is sponsored by Joe's Auto Shop. If you have an auto repair need, go down and see Joe's Auto Shop down on Main Street. He's one of our sponsors. Tell him we sent you. That's all you're going to say. You've told the people Joe's Auto Shop has given you a donation, and that's how that works, okay? But it's not a full-blown ad, all right? And you can also sell advertising. Oh, wait a minute now, Brother Bob. This thing just gets confusing. Sponsorships and donations and now advertising. What's the difference? All right, I'm going to explain it. When you sell advertising, you're going to combine the banner ads and the sponsorships idea. Okay, so you're going to talk about Joe's Auto Shop, but remember I talked about those Google ads on the side? Instead of that, you're going to have Joe's Auto Shop logo or picture, or make a banner ad on your website, so it's there all the time talking about Joe's Auto Shop, at least on that episode page, if he's the sponsor of that episode. So you're combining the banner ads with the sponsorship ads, and that gives you a chance for dual income. This is an upgrade. So Joe's Auto Shop is going to sponsor for $50 a month to be in the pre-roll or the mid-roll or all three, whatever, on your podcast episode. So, that's $50 a month. Here's what I'm going to do. For another $25 a month, I'm going to put a banner ad for you on my website. So even when, your episode's not on, people can click on it and you'll be taken to your website. So he said, okay, well, man, that's good. So you can have a page just for that, or you can just scatter them all over your main landing page. You might have 3 or 4 different sponsors, and you can put them all up in the corners. So Joe's Auto Shop, Susie's or Kelly's Sock Shop, and Ed's Bakery, all 3 have these banner ads plus their sponsors, and you're getting that extra income from there as well. So then we talked about the banner ads. We talked about the sponsorships, the difference between sponsorships and donations, the selling, the advertising, and there's also your own product sales. Your own product sales will help you in selling books and training programs and coaching programs and things like that. This is another avenue of monetizing your podcast. Just like I have the podcast training program. Well, I talk about it on my podcast. If you're starting your podcast, go over to my website, and check out the podcast training program. Go to bobthibodeau.com, up in the corner, it says podcast training, click on it, and become part of our training group. That's using your podcast, that podcast audience, to sell your own training program, of which you joined, right? It does work. And by doing that, you're promoting your own books, your own services, your own things. You're not promoting other people's stuff. You're promoting your own stuff. So that means you get 100% of the profits on that. And that's another way of monetizing your podcast. Okay. With the product sales, before you start selling stuff, you have to have, what do we call it? Relationship currency. You have to have relationship currency. If you haven't established a relationship with your listeners yet, they're not going to buy nothing you got, not one item. Okay. You could have the best book on how to knit socks, but if you haven't established any type of relationship with your listeners, you're not selling one book. So you have to concentrate on that relationship currency. Again, that's social media. It's email marketing. It's going to these conventions and networking. It's listening to questions your listeners have. Tell them to email your question. You got a question on knitting socks, email me, because I'll make it a topic on one of our podcasts. I have a thing where if someone leaves me a rating and a review, I'll give them a kudos on the podcast. I'll say, and thanks to Joe G over in Mobile, Alabama, for a great comment, and I do appreciate it, brother. Man, you are awesome, and thank you for listening. Make that a relationship. Establish those relationships. That's the only way you're going to make money with the podcast, is through relationship marketing. You are not going to do it just from selling stuff. So especially when you're trying to sell your own products, establish that relationship first. And how do you do that? Begin with giving away the shop. Give it away. How do I make money by giving stuff away? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. Give away quality stuff. Just don't say, I'm going to give away this business card right here. If you email me right now, I'll send you this business card. I don't need your business card. I could care less about your business card. But if you tell me, I have a unique way of making business cards, and it's like 20% the cost of what you normally pay, even online. You can make 1,000 business cards for $2. And I'm going to send you this cheat sheet, tell you how to do it. Huh. And how much that cheat sheet costs? Oh, I'm going to give it to you. Wait a minute. You're going to give me a cheat sheet that shows me how to make business cards for $2? Yeah. What do you make out of it? Nothing. I'm just giving it to you. Shoot. Send it to me. And that, now what happened? You're giving away quality information on something they're interested in. If they weren't interested in business cards or making business cards or saving money on business cards, they wouldn't order it. But if they order your free gift, what are they interested in? Learn how to make cheap business cards, right? So give it away. Well, how do I make money on that? Simple. Once they get the cheat sheet down at the bottom, they say, for more information, go to my website at, makingcheapbusinesscards.com. Okay, click. Now they're on your website. And you tell them, I got this free template for you. Well, you just gave them a free checklist. Now you got a free template. Wow, that's awesome. Click. They download the free template. How do you make money on the free template? You don't. You're giving away this stuff. There's a free template. And down on there it says, to find out how to format this template unique just for you, click here. Click. They've already clicked twice. They've ordered the checklist. Now they ordered the free template. They click this one. Now you take them to, for $7.95 or $7 or whatever the case may be. I can give you this free PDF that tells you how to format this template so it's unique just to you. Well, that's not bad. $7. Click. You just made $7. You made $7 by giving away information people want. Now, I use something simple like how to generate a cheap business card. You can use it for whatever it is you want to sell. If you want to, how to create a great book cover, you can do the same thing. Here's a checklist on how to create a great book cover. Here's a template for a great book cover. Here's a way to format and make this book cover unique to you. $7. Boom. If that's what your podcast is about, and that's is creating and publishing your own books, that's a great thing for you to go into, right? And how did you do it? By a free offer, right? Now switch your offers up. You don't want to keep the same offer for the next 6 years, because you want to generate that interest. Someone downloads it, they don't, I could care less about how to make free or cheap business cards. And I'm not really interested in publishing a book right now. Well, next month you tell them how to create a great table of contents for their book. And they decide, I think I'm gonna write a book. And then they see your stuff. Oh, I need a table of contents. So they didn't take the book cover, but now they'll take the table of contents. It's the same concept though. Change it up about every month or so. You can do it. You can do this. And stay in touch. Once they download how to, the checklist on creating your own book, and then the cheat sheet and the template for creating your own book cover, have that opt-in page. You have to go get yourself an autoresponder. I like Aweber. And set it up where when they click on it, it takes them over here. Give me the best email the first one, the checklist should be on your website. They can click on it, boom, downloaded free of charge. They want the template. Give me the best email to send this template to, because sometimes you don't have to make up excuses, but sometimes emails don't send PNG files and all that quickly. So you tell them, instead of just downloading from here, give me the best email, I'll send it to you in a link. Boom, there you go. And have that page hidden on your website. So they click on the link, it takes them to the landing page, they fill out their name and email, say, send me my template, boom, and off they go. They come back to that hidden page on the website, said, download it here. And there you go. Now you have their email address, so you can stay in touch with them, because that's part of what? Your email marketing that we talked about back in the beginning, right? Building that relationship currency, right? So we talked about banner ads. We talked about sponsorships. We talked about donations and the difference between them. We talked about selling advertising through the banner ads and the sponsorships. And then we talked about product sales. Now, there's also crowdfunding sources. You got Kickstarter and all these different GoFundMe pages and different things like that. Kickstarter is a good one if you're starting a business, but GoFundMe can be used. And there's several. Patreon is a good one for podcasters. A lot of podcasters use Patreon, and there's other ones out there that I'm not even going to mention right now. But you can use these to generate interest in your podcast, especially if you're kicking off something new. I have this podcast and we're talking about how to write books, and I want to create this great training program. It's going to cost me, X amount of dollars to create, because it's going to be super fabulous. And I'm looking for some people who will help me build it. And these are the different levels you can sponsor. You can do, one-time gift of $50. And with that, I'll help you creating your book cover. You can do $100. I'll help you with your book cover, your table of contents, and formatting the book, or whatever the case may be. You come up with these different gift levels. If people support you in your endeavor, you immediately generate some money. If you did, let's say you had 10 people say they're going to support you, 2 at $25, so there's 50 for the book cover area, 4 in the table of contents at $50, there's 200, so now you're at 250. And then the other 4 wanting help for the whole book, and they're giving you $100. So you're 650, 700 bucks that you immediately got. Now you just help them do what it is you said you were going to do. But you got that money to help start promoting your podcast and your training programs and all that other stuff in another way. But that is one way that you can generate some extra income through your podcast, is talk about Patreon. I know several podcasters, they have 200-300 people donating anywhere from $2 a month to $10 a month, just to have immediate access to their podcast before things are published. So if you're publishing your podcast on a schedule and you're loading it 3 or 4 days ahead of time, these followers get the episodes first. Sometimes you do a special episode that's not even going to be published. You talk about, you can send that link to them. Sometimes you're going to do an hour-long podcast on an interview, but like I do, I break it up into 2 episodes so it fits on our radio station. You can do that, have it split into a couple of episodes, but for your sponsors, they get the whole thing at one time. They want to listen to it all in one sitting. That's up to them. So these are things that you're offering those who support you, something that the public doesn't get. That's another way of generating that. What do we call it? Relationship currency, right? That's what helps you monetize your podcast. All right. Now, I cannot guarantee you that you're going to be able to monetize your podcast. There's no way I can guarantee that. Absolutely no way. And the results I get, your results are probably going to be different. You may even do better than I do. All right. But I can tell you that those podcasters who successfully monetize their podcasts are using usually a combination of all these things we just talked about. They just don't focus on email marketing. They just don't focus on, social media marketing. They use a combination of all these things. They just don't sell products. They use a combination of everything we just talked about in order to generate various revenues. I mean, it's not unusual. If you talk about all those things we just talked about right here, banner ads, sponsorships, donations, selling, advertising, product sales, and crowdfunding. Let's say you got $200 a month coming in from each one of those sources. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's $1,200 a month coming in. Is that impossible? No. I know several podcasters who do multiple incomes of that amount every month. And some are generating tens of thousands of dollars per month. No joke. All right. So it does work. Can I, again, guarantee that you're going to get that? No. Each person's individual tastes and preferences and skills are different in all these marketing areas. But those podcasters who do generate income from their podcasts are using usually a combination of everything we just talked about. Now, what I recommend is you implement them one at a time. Start social media marketing. Get that thing going. Get comfortable doing that on a regular basis. As you get some people signing up for your free gifts and free offers, you got their email address, start email marketing with that. So you start with Facebook and Twitter and all that. You got some traction there, you got some results, then you start emailing them people, okay? In the process, you're going to talk to local businesses. You're going to these meetup groups. You're going to these conventions. You start the social relationship, the relationship currency marketing, the networking, and you generate some interest that way. You got the interviews, and you're leveraging the people's social media networks as they share the interviews, and you're getting more followers, more followers. While you're doing all that, you're generating your own products that you're going to sell, and you start telling people about that by giving away the checklists and the PDF files and things like that. So you're implementing them one at a time. You're evaluating, wow, this that book was a flop. I didn't sell anything, right? Back off it a little bit. Maybe listen to your questions that you're getting, the comments you're receiving, and maybe revamp a little bit on the next offer. So you have to evaluate and test those different ideas, because each person has their own personality, and some things work better for me that won't work for you. You might try some things and you just explode on the scene, and I try it and I flop. So each person is different. Their audience is different. So what works for one will not work for another, but a lot of things will work across different lines, okay? So keep track of your own stats. Make sure you're achieving the return on investment. You know, you don't want to spend $500 a month in Facebook ads and not get anything, right? Start small. Start with 20 bucks in the month, 50 bucks in the month, something that's affordable. And even if you get one sale or a dozen followers, something like, keep track of that. Okay, well, I spent 50. I got a sale for 100. Okay, so I made $50. Next month, spend 100. Did I make 200? So the return on investment staying about the same. That's a good indicator you're onto something, right? But if you spent 50 and made 5, that's not good. Let's look at a way to revamp that ad a little bit. So you have to keep track of every statistic you can think about in order to successfully do this. Well, folks, congratulations. You made it. That concludes the monetization training. This concludes the entire podcast training program. I said 8 weeks. You know, we went 1 week longer. Now, it's just so awesome that you made it this far, right? You think about where you started just a couple months ago, okay? You didn't even have a podcast, most of you. You had an idea, but you weren't sure how to get started. Now you're part of the 1%. Remember the podcast statistics that we covered way back in the beginning? Less than 1% of the people in the United States of America have their own podcast. That's why when you go to a business meeting or some type of social function, and you know someone says, "Well, what do you think about the heat wave we're having?" And your podcast is about global warming for whatever reason. And you say, "Well, I interviewed so-and-so and he says that da-da-da-da." Say, interview for what? So, "Well, I have a podcast." You have a podcast? Remember I said that'll be when you say you have a podcast and you interviewed someone about this subject for, how to replace, cars nowadays are impossible to fix by yourself. Well, I interview several people every week on how to repair your car. Well, interview for what? My podcast. And I said, the very first question they're going to ask you is, you have a podcast? And the second question is going to be, how can I listen? Those will be number 1 and number 2, guaranteed. So when you go to these events, that's part of your relationship currency, right? So, you are now part of the 1%. Less than 1% of the people in the United States have their own podcast. And you're one of them. Matter of fact, I'd make a t-shirt that says, I'm part of the 1%. Be careful where you wear it, though. Some people may take that the wrong way. Amen. But right now, you should now have your podcast up and running. It's published, it's running, you're getting downloads. You have some listeners. Oh, isn't that awesome? People are listening. I don't care if it's 5 people. That's 5 people you're impacting with the information you're providing. You need to leverage those 5 people and tell them to give you some reviews. Like I said, over on iTunes, I tell people, if you go to iTunes, leave me a rating and review and leave your contact information there for me, I will reach out to you. I will read, I'll mention your name on a podcast episode, and do it. Whatever, people like hearing their name, especially if they know you're getting thousands of listeners, and they say, Paul over at Paul's Body Shop, left me a great rating when we did it. So now people want to know who Paul at Paul's Body Shop is, right? So get some of those reviews. You should be on Apple Podcasts. Now, at the time we're doing this training, Apple is revamping how they're doing everything. So if we go back to the video prior to this, right now, it's just information on the changes coming up. Once we know for sure how Apple Podcasts is doing everything, then there'll be another complete training session that I'm going to be going over on that. If you're watching this after the fall of 2019, this has already been updated for you. But prior to this, you're just going to have a straight video of me talking about how to get on Apple Podcasts. And I still recommend just going through your major host provider. They'll walk you through it. That's the easiest thing I can tell you. They'll walk you through it, and they're going to help you every step of the way to get on Apple Podcasts. All right. But you should already be on Apple Podcasts, and you should be all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all these other things. You need to be reaching out to as far and as wide as you can to promote your podcast all over social media. And if you've done it right, you may even have some money coming in. May not be much, but I remember back when I started my first job, I think I made $1.25 an hour. Right? I thought I was rolling in dough as a teenager. But when you look back at it now, that's chump change, right? Well, when you first start to get, $100 a month, $150 a month, it's going to seem awesome. You got money coming into your podcast. 6 years later, if you're at $100, $150 a month, and you're like, man, what can I do to increase this? Well, that's what you need to work on. But get the first ones coming in first, because that tells you you're on to the right track. All right. So congratulations. You're awesome. You made it. You made it. Oh, isn't that great? It's party time. You completed the training program. You don't know how many people I have that started this training. And some, very few actually quit during the first 30 days and asked for their money back, because the training's awesome, if I do say so myself. But the training is spot on. Very few people will actually quit during the first 30 days and say, this is what I thought it was, and I want my money back. If you ask for it in the first 30 days, they get it. But you would be surprised at how many people don't make it to the point you are at right now. Right? They just, I want to do it. I just don't have the time. That means it's not a priority. I want to do it. I just don't know how. They're not following the training. I want to do it. I don't know if I can do it. They're not following the training. But you made it. You made it. That's awesome. That is a reason to celebrate. Now you are an official alumni of the podcast training program. Congratulations again. You made it. I got one more thing for you. You know about the podcast promotion page on the private website. It's in the members area of the website. The podcast promotion page, once you have published your podcast, that's where we'll be promoting your podcast through. So far and wide. You have an interview with me, 7 to 10 minutes, that you can use as promotion material. You have the private Facebook group where you can collaborate together. You have people who are helping you every step of the way. If you want to continue that relationship, you can do so for only $25 per month. Now, some people, when they sign up for this continuing training, I've done it as well, and 6-7 months down the road, I forget about it, and I'll see this thing come out. Oh yeah, I got to take care of that. And 2-3 more months go on. I really go back and cancel. I'm not using it anymore. Well, to stop that from happening, I keep it at 6 months. So for the next 6 months, you can go ahead and join for $25 per month, and that's all it is. You pay $25 when you first sign up. It's $25 per month. And in 6 months, it automatically stops, but you can renew it again if you want. That way, if you forget about it, it's going to stop. I'm not going to take money for something that you're not going to use. So, that's just me personally, how I feel about that. If you keep it going for 2 months and decide, I don't want to do this anymore, you can cancel anytime. Okay. I automatically set it to stop after 6 months, just in case you forget about it and you're not using it. If you're active in it and you're getting a lot of benefit from it, towards the end of the 6 months, you'll get another renewal notice and you just go ahead and continue it. And it'll go another 6 months. The thing is, you need to stay part of the group. You've come so far. You have come so far. Think back to when you first clicked on that link and said, podcast training. Did I need this? And look where you're at now. And I want to maintain that relationship. I've made friends out of many of you. I consider you a friend. I hope you consider me a friend. And we've had collaboration back and forth. And I just want to maintain that relationship. And if you do this, you're going to continue with the weekly live training. You'll be able to participate in the live Q&A. And those of you who are on here now, I'll be stopping this recording in a minute, and we'll answer any questions that you might have. If you're listening to this on the recording, you don't see all this because that's just the way I got it set up. Most people, this is set up to be part of the training program that people will receive. But those who are on live, this concludes the training program. Okay, we'll be continuing our weekly training on different aspects and we'll look at different things, but this will conclude the actual training program. Okay, but so you can continue that because you'll have continued access to the weekly live training, participating in the live Q&A. You'll continue to have access to the private Facebook group. You'll continue to have your podcast on the podcast promotion page, so we can continue helping you in that area. And you're also going to have my private email, so you can ask me a question at any time. You don't have to wait each week for the live Q&A. You can just send me an email. Hey, Bob, I have a question on this. I can't get this link to work. How can I do this? And then I'll look at it for you. Maybe we can work it out together, right? And you can ask questions whenever you need to. That's the point I'm trying to make. Again, 6 months access for only $25 per month. And you can renew or cancel at any time. I'm going to cancel this here. And hi, that's me again. Now, I'm going to pull this up here and get this link. I'm going to put it in the chat. This is the link to PayPal. So you can just click it right through this training program. I hope that went through. Did it? No? Let's try that again, because I want you to have this. There we go. There we go. There's the link to the PayPal. So you can just click that right through chat. It'll take you straight over to the page where you can hit the continuation button to continue access to this training group. And folks, I just want to thank you for giving me the privilege of leading you on your podcast training from concept to launch, and with today's training, hopefully into monetization. This is Bob Thibodeau. I want to thank you again. It has been my pleasure in helping you launch your podcast. Till next time, this is Bob Thibodeau. We'll see you then.